Hello, and welcome to Evolving on Purpose, a show I have created in hopes that I can inspire you to take the deep dive into discovering who you are and what you came here to do. Each week, I will have on individuals to share their unique journey to self-discovery and where their purpose is taking them. I will also do solo episodes to share what I am currently learning, practicing, or even just contemplating. So come on, what are you waiting for? Join me in Evolving on Purpose. Hello, today I have Allison Sutter on the show. I'm so excited for you guys to hear this episode. Allison is an intuitive and spiritual mentor. She helps conscious women embrace their connection to their higher self and fully trust their intuition, the synchronicities of life, and master the art of moving around fear every time it shows up. And she really does this. Even I noticed a lot of fears coming up for me while she was talking about really releasing to creativity and kind of letting go of the shoulds and pushing. And I felt myself kind of pushing back on that a little bit, but it's so true. So I'm so excited to introduce Allison to the show, and I hope you guys get as much out of it as I did. Hi, Allison. I'm so excited for you to be here. Can you just start by telling us how you got to where you are now?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to share my story, and hopefully it resonates on some level with your listeners. So currently, where I am is a good place, but I wasn't always in a good place. And as most people can relate to, there are ups and downs. I currently work as a spiritual mentor and intuitive coach, but getting here was interesting. Just to give you kind of like nuggets along the way, as are all children, I was intuitive, but I grew up in a family that did not talk about emotions. My dad was a surgeon. He was very stoic. He was like, emotions have no place. And he brought that to the family. But as an empathic, intuitive child, growing up in a family with trauma where my sister was in drug rehab by the time she was 13, she left home, she was running away, she had all sort of mental health challenges. I was like, wait, doesn't anyone else see what's going on? And because the narrative was, no, we don't talk about this, I started from a young age, numbing. I started, drugs and alcohol and being promiscuous and self-harm and all of these things. And then, so fast forward, I'm sort of going through my life. And then I was teaching, I did elementary school teaching, but I was always struggling with this expression of being an intuitive being, and didn't really feel like there was a place for that. I wasn't comfortable showing that side of myself. And then when I decided to enter personal development, I hooked up with a pretty famous coach. And long story short, the perception that I got from that experience was he was more interested in making financial claims than the actual personal development part. It was very much standardized personal development. There's a script, follow the script. If you don't follow the script, what's wrong with you? Get up earlier, do more what I tell you. He actually said, do exactly what I tell you. And if you don't, you're basically going to fail. I won't work with you. So it was a very anxiety inducing experience for me. And finally, I just left, and I'm like, I got no money left. I got nothing to, show for this. And I just gave up in terms of surrendering. And I said, well, what do I have left? What can I do after I got over the disappointment and the depression and the, feeling guilty because I wasted all this money? And I said, I've got a journey where I can explore what it is to be intuitive. I can look at ways to transform these fears that have just been so aggressive in my life. And I can really learn to be proud of me as I express myself, love me with my energetic thumbprint, like that individuality. And having come from standardized education, I know that's not the way, because look what it does to children. Like, I was part of the machine, right? I thought it was enough to give the kids a script, and if they could repeat the script, then everything was going to be okay. It's not like that. And so what I did, based on what I knew to be true, when I sort of went off on my own and said, what can I create? That at the fundamental foundational principle of it is independence and individuality. Like that's the core vibration of what it is I wanted to create in this world called self help. So everything I created was, will the person be independent and strong and confident when they move through this experience? Will they feel like they don't need me? You don't need me, right? And how do you express these three pillars of transformation that I was exploring? So I started doing that. I started creating courses, visualization mastery, abundance mindset, and I got about 5,000 students to go through these classes and give me feedback. And then from there, I created, I had to name my program something. So I named it Accelerate Your Mojo, and accelerate means realize sooner, sooner than what? Than you would have otherwise, like just sooner. And mojo to me meant that connection to that divine essence that we are, that I knew to be true because of an experience I had when my mom died when I was 20. So, as everyone, we all go through these ebbs and these flows and these expansions and contractions. And really kind of that pivotal point was being with this person and seeing what standardized personal development was and being like, no, my theme in this life is people. It is not money. So sorry. Bye-bye. It's people. It's self-expression. It's individualization. It's intuitive guidance, inspired action. That's my theme.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely resonated with you right away when I heard you talking, because a lot of coaching and self-help and things like that out there, they either turn me off through the dogma, you have to do it this way, this is the one way, and I love that they found a way. I just wish we could admit that it's not for everybody, right? And if we taught people from a young age to be intuitive, they could find maybe somebody's path that they could kind of replicate a little bit to get, somewhere. But the fact that it's not talked about, the fact that it's, you do it this way and you will be successful, and this is the way that you've got to do it. Or so I love that you don't have the dogma, and then the selling. I can't handle it. It's like, it just feels like these pyramid schemes. Like, I'm a wealth coach. This is how you get wealth, right?
Right.
I'm
right.
an abundance coach. This is how you get abundance, but it's just you signing up people under you to teach them how to sign up people under them.
Well, here's what's interesting about our mindset as a general people. Pretty much the majority of people have gone through standardized education. It is their script. Yeah. They really can't even see how much that script influences everything else that they do. And I know that because, first of all, I see it all over the place, and I was part of it, right? And so when I transitioned over to personal development, the guy that I worked with said, here's literally a workbook. He literally gave a workbook with like spots to fill in, sentences to fill in. His script was, here, watch these DVDs, watch them 3 times a day, as if that was supposed to do something, right? So he had
program you, right?
right. It was like, here's the script. And I felt so comfortable because that's standardized education. I thought I could do that. And he was like, we're going to make $1 million, just like you said. I was like, okay, I can hand a person a workbook. I can tell them how to fill in the blanks. I've been doing this my whole life. But every time I went into that environment, my anxiety went through the roof. And I did not listen. I thought I was just an exacerbation of my general anxiety and panic. But it wasn't. It was you are on the wrong path.
Let's talk about that, because I get really bad anxiety, which doing all the work, doing the tools, and knowing that the biggest thing that has helped me is knowing that this will pass, right? Like when I accept that I'm feeling anxious and knowing, then it doesn't go to panic. But anxiety is usually always pretty much telling you something's off, right? Like, and so can you talk about anxiety and intuition a little bit?
Sure. So there's a little bit of a division in there that I have learned to separate over time. It's kind of I don't want to say complicated, but it takes some time to work through what happens when we have an emotion, such as anxiety or anything else for that matter, any other emotion. It comes from the thing we have a belief system is really where that beliefs and emotions have a chemical reaction in the body, and the sensation is what you feel based on that chemical reaction. Anxiety comes from fear. However, I have come to believe that intuition is benevolent, right? It is a benevolent energy, but you can have a benevolent thought, an idea, and it can be intercepted by a negative belief. And so it gets so mushed up and so unclear that you don't know what is anxiety and what is intuition. Um, but I have learned to say, well, I know that intuition is to me, it's important that the person define their own, have their own definition of intuition, right? It's really, really important that you know what your definition is. My definition at this point used to be like gut feeling. It used to be a miraculous, not something that didn't occur very often. It was like that's kind of where I started. Now it's intuition is actually it's like a portal. It's like a third reality where non-physical consciousness, whether that's your higher self or your transitioned loved ones or your spirit teams, whatever, can send a message. It's almost like a vibrational translator, in the same way this computer is a vibrational translator. It's translating as a third reality, vibrational frequency. That's what it's doing. So to me, currently, that's what intuition is. So it can receive the love, because that's what the universe is. It's benevolence, it's love, it's unconditional kindness and generosity and appreciation. So we can send the message, but you yourself can be, you know, having a parallel experience, and it gets caught up. So when I was experiencing anxiety, that was because I just was not in the right place. Right. And it got all meshed up at the time. I got all balled up at the time, and I wasn't able to differentiate. So the anxiety was just a knowing that I was in the wrong place. Like I'm just not supposed to be here, but I kept pushing myself into it. And it really was because I went against his theme. His theme was money, and my theme was people. And I didn't even realize that at the time. So I'm trying to go into somebody else's narrative and be like, okay, I guess it's just about money. But it wasn't for me. My soul theme is about connection with people. And until I began to honor that, I felt anxious. I tried to do things that went against what my theme is. And there isn't a right or wrong theme. If you're here to explore money, go for it. There is no right or wrong, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
So you got to know what's right for you.
I know. I love the law of attraction and all of that, because it really does give people a doorway into that we are supported and that we are co-creators and all of that, even though most of the time people are in it to manifest a big house and manifest, that's okay, because it got them into this world. It gave them another perspective. It gave them an evolution. And yes, I agree. That's not what it has to be purposeful for me. It has to be fulfilling. It has to be for the greater good of all. But there's no wrong way. I do believe that 100%. Yeah. And so I was thinking about when I had a coach that I didn't sign up for her $20,000 program. I think that you said that it was quite an investment with this.
It was
this coach. I signed up, I think, with the monthly, so I could kind of test.
Sure.
And it was just so much. I could see that she was really good at getting people over their fears and things like that. But it was like, no matter what, you just keep going, right? Like you show up no matter what. And it did kind of take out that intuition. The thing is, though, intuition is hard when you don't trust yourself. And that's where I came from, was a place where I didn't trust myself, because I'm an emotional, in human design, I'm an emotional being. So I have this really, really high, and then it drops off a cliff. And so I would jump at the high, and then it would drop off a cliff, and it would be crisis, chaos. What did I do? And so until I learned that, and I don't think you need human design, I think just really trusting yourself, but I love human design, astrology, things like that, because they give you a window into exploring yourself, right? And so, yeah, learning that and understanding that, then I was able to start trusting myself. And then the intuition could come through because before, I mean, I grew up in a world where my mom's a Capricorn. When's the other shoe going to drop? Right. Like there's, the universe is a scary place. You have to be prepared. You have to work hard. You have to, there's always, you can't get too excited because the other shoe's going to drop. Right.
So here's an idea that when you play with it, at some point there will be an aha moment. And the idea is there is no such thing as doubt or lack. There's just 100% trust in what you don't want, which is a belief system, right? So beliefs are self-replicating. They're self-replicating, so we can have some consistency in this reality experience. If there's no consistency, our psyche would just not have anything to figure out what's going on. So when you're learning to create 100% trust in what you want, or some derivation of that, 51, let's just say 51% trust in what you want. I enjoyed, and of course this is what I enjoyed. So I enjoyed playing with the concepts of how we create this reality. And I believe we are non-physical consciousness having this experience of a physical reality. And so once we've focused ourselves here, what do we need to do? We need to have something that creates some consistency, and that's what beliefs are. And so they're sort of habitual to a certain degree. And that's what the other shoe dropping is. It's a belief in the habitual nature of something goes right, something goes wrong, something goes right, something goes wrong. It's like there's a pattern to it. And if you believe that you are a victim of your reality, you'll find a way to verify that. The shoe dropped because. So you have to begin to explore ideas, in my opinion, that are exciting to you, that help you understand who you really are, the benevolence of the universe, how, here's another idea. So how in control you actually are. So there's two versions of this, or there's probably infinite, but for just clarity, let's take two versions of this concept of control and surrender. Surrender to me does not mean just lay on the couch and hope that it works out, because this is a physical reality, and we are physical beings that move. So there's this concept where I have to control. And to me personally, that's what goal setting was. Goal setting, for example, was I have to control. I have to think of something, and then I have to put it on the calendar, and then I have to make it happen. Because if it doesn't happen that way, how's it going to happen, right? So that's a version of control. There's another version of control where you realize that because you are non-physical consciousness, there's a built-in control called synchronicity, just perfect timing, which is flow, which is you are a creative being. So you're not going to not create. It's just a matter of what are you creating, because you're going to create more of the same or something different. That's really your two choices. Yeah. More of the same or something different. So if I'm doing this, if it's more of the same or something different, how do I want to get to one or the other? If it's more of the same because I love it, perfect. If it's something different because I'm not really pleased, how am I going to get there? And so you look at, am I going to get there through trying to make it happen, through the hustle, through the forcing, through the anxiety inducing nonstop action, or am I going to play with the idea? And you don't have to believe it. You can just play with it. Just play with the idea. Well, what if synchronicity is really an organizing principle of the universe? What does that look like for me? How can I recognize it, identify it, prove to myself? And synchronicity is an organizing principle for me. It's for everybody, but for me, I understand that there's like red light and green light. And every instance where you come upon an interaction, which you're doing 24/7, one is not more important. When you meet someone at the grocery store, it's not more important than when you do something else that you perceive as more significant. They're all important. So there's red light, which means, not this way right now. And then there's green light, which means, okay, this way right now. Right. So how are you going to prove to yourself that you have 100% trust? You're just trusting in what's not going to work out or what's going to work out. And this is an evolution. I'm not saying I have this all mastered, by the way. I'm saying these are ideas that we can play with as we continue to create the expression of a physical reality.
Yeah. And if you don't believe that, thoughts become things and that we create our own reality, you can just look at studies like the saline they gave people for cancer and they lost their hair. You look at a lemon and you like these things are thought, right? Like nothing happened. It was a thought. It was a belief. It was
right.
And so we know when we look at the evidence that this is how it works. But for me, when I was first, I'm gonna create something, I'm gonna take control of my life, I just didn't know what excited me anymore. I'm a manifesting generator. Like my world is to be excited. It's to be what lights me up, go do it. What lights me up, go do it. And right now, what I'm learning astrology and gene keys and human design and all the things at the same time because I need different outlets, right? Like I need different outlets for my excitement. But when you shut that down for so long, I didn't know what was exciting. All I was this stressed out mom of 2 kids going, I hate my job. I'm giving everything to my kids and are they going to be okay? Are they, and I just looked around and I was like, I don't know what excites me. So what, if somebody's like that, what would you tell them to start to figure it out? Right. Because a lot of times we're so shut down. We don't know who we are, what we are, anymore.
Sure, you just have to start where you are. And I started there as well when my kids were little and I knew I wanted to go forward in a direction. Before I kind of, give some ideas about how you can follow that, one thing to keep in mind is that everything is a step along the way. We tend to like this concept of an end result. I just have to get there, as if there is somehow more important than every other step along the way. And that can create a sense of anxiety in and of itself because you're like, I have to be at this pinnacle point. I don't know what that pinnacle point is, right? Like, I don't know. How am I going to get there? And then you stop, and then you repeat more of the same. But I would say follow the gentle inclinations, and they're gentle because you have free will, right? And a gentle inclination is, let's just start with something everybody's familiar with. Watch this Netflix show versus that one, right? Become aware of what feels a little bit better right now. What do I want to make for dinner? Do I want to make chicken or beef or vegan? What feels just a little bit better, right? So you're tuning yourself to these subtle variations and following your inner guidance, which is your intuition, which is and the other thing to keep in mind is, and this is really when you sort of digest this, it's the how part of the process of getting from where you are to where you want to be. But your higher self, the part of you that is 100% physically focused, sends inclinations, which you translate as those hunches, those things through the lens of passion, excitement, curiosity. Curiosity is a great one. Oh, I wonder. Interest is literally the linguistics of your soul. It is the linguistics. It is the communication, that the bird's eye view that has the greater picture that goes, oh, you could go here. And let me send a pulse wave of energy. And you're going to translate that to the best of your ability today, wherever you are. And it might sound like, you know what? I don't really have time to go do this and that. So I'm just going to go do this. This feels a little better, right? You have to start where you are because you can't start anywhere else. I started from confusion. I started from all the beliefs that we have about how things are supposed to go are sort of poking at you. You got to know the end result. You got to have it all figured out. If you don't know the way, how are you going to get there? It's like, you got to begin to say, I hear those voices, but I'm going to turn up the volume on another one for just a little while, which says, maybe I do know how to work this out. Maybe I do know how I have an inner guidance system that is leading me down my path of least resistance, one step at a time, all things being equal. And maybe today, that looks like, whatever it looks like, you just have to begin to sort of fine tune and not get all caught up in the dialogue between friends or family or the internet stuff you're watching that goes, you got to know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you never get there. Actually, that's not true. That's fun. That's a fundamental lie we tell ourselves to sell programs.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to do tomorrow, and you could have a fabulous life. Like, that's a truth.
Yeah.
So start where you are. It's okay. I promise you, it's okay.
Yeah. And that's where I had to start was, what songs do I like? Because I'm listening to the music my kids like, right? And oh, maybe I like this, and finding a song, and then finding a song while I'm cooking dinner. And I used to love to cook. I would cook. I thought I was going to be on the Food Network. I loved to cook. And then I was making all these meals that my kids liked, and I just lost that passion. And so maybe they had to have frozen pizza one night, which I thought, oh, it wasn't healthy and whatever. And I've kind of let go of those beliefs. I bless it once in a while. They can have a frozen pizza. They can have chicken nuggets once in a while. I bless it. I give it to them. And then I make myself what I want, right? I give myself something that excites me, that lights me up. And that's where I had to start, because I was like, I have no joy in my life, just that.
Yes. When you're the parent of young children, it's incredibly absorbing, and you do feel like you've laid it all out for them. But this is an infinite universe. And if you are attracted to this idea, that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know is
Yeah.
you're attracted to the idea of following your excitement. There's a formula that we literally learned in kindergarten. I used to teach kindergarten, and I'll say it and then we can go through another point or not, whatever. But it's you follow your highest level of excitement in any given moment from the choices that you have. Take that excitement as far as you can take it till you can't take it anymore. There's going to be a stopping point. Don't demand, and this is the really tricky part, don't demand that initial passion or excitement has to become something specific, and stay in a positive mindset as often as you can. If you follow that formula, you will be soul-led, inspired, action-based being. And you're always on the right path. You're never on the wrong path. That's a fallacy as well. You're always on the right path, but this gives you more of an awareness of your own way to get from A to Z, right? Your guided path based on your inner being telling you, we can see all your limiting beliefs. We see all your fears and doubts. We see all your ambitions. We've heard all your prayers. Now let us guide you down the path of least resistance for right this moment, because tomorrow your path is going to be a little bit different, because you might have shifted a belief, or you might have encountered something traumatic or joyful. Or so for this moment, we're just going to just trust us in the inclination.
Yeah.
Don't judge it. Don't demand it has to become something. Just give us a chance, right? Just allow, just for right now.
Yeah. Do you have a practice that you do every day? Because I find that when I start my day in a place of, I do like an automatic writing practice. So I get into kind of a theta state, and I call in my guides, and I call in, the universe, whoever's here to help me, right? I call it all in, and then I do some automatic writing just to give me like, what is it I'm supposed to do today, right? And so that starts me in this energetic. And when I don't do it, sometimes on the weekends, my son has a really early basketball game, or and I don't do it, I feel like I'm not quite as connected all day long, right? So do you have or do you just kind of connect in throughout the day?
So a couple years ago, I began exploring the idea of what my non-physical consciousness does at night. And what I did is I actually start the night before. When I go to bed, I invite in awarenesses through whether when I'm getting up to go to the bathroom, or whether it's sort of a lucid state, or when I wake up. And right now it's happening when I wake up. I find ideas that solve a problem or answer or explore an idea. So, and for me, writing is my thing. So, yes, there's generally, I don't brush my teeth. I just go to the bathroom, I get up, and I sort of spill out through the written form ideas that I have been exploring while my physical body sleeps and my non-physical consciousness. And I've become aware of teaching esoteric level like classes, ideas that I don't have clarity on the night or day before, explorations of ideas, different ways to teach things that bring them down to a fundamental, um, relatable level. Like if I'm working with someone, even, um, if my daughter asks me a question or something, she asked me a question about teaching and like lesson plans. And, um, I actually got that because I went and took a shower and then I got an idea right away. But, if I didn't, I would invite it in at night and then wake up and it's there because I expect it to be there, right? I've trained myself to know that I can trust me, that I can have the clarity.
I think consistency is huge, right? It's when you consistently show up in awareness, you consistently show up in um, inviting this in. I feel like consistency is really big.
Well, here's the thing. So, if somebody's listening to this and they go, "Oh, I should be writing," no, actually, you should follow the impulse that is true for you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where there's like a motivational mechanism. If you look at kids in kindergarten, their motivational mechanism is to create based on their highest level of excitement. Right? If you
Yeah.
put them in a room, they're going to gravitate toward what they love. They're not going to be like, "Gee, I wish I had this other thing." They're going to be like, "All right, this is what I have." They're going to play with it as long as they play with it. And there's inspired action in all of that. And then when they're done, they drop it and they don't go, "Gee, I wish it would have been more like this." They just allow it to be and they stay in a positive mindset and they go from place to place. So that inner inspiration is what allows you to be this thing we call consistent when you're enjoying it. The consistency is built in when you follow that excitement. So there's no need to force yourself. There's no need to be carrot on the stick thinking you have to do something. So be
Yeah.
very careful when you're listening to podcasts like this and someone goes, "Oh, this works for me." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, I should totally do that because it worked for them." Pause.
Yeah.
No, no, no. If it's because I know
Yeah.
people that do not like to write. And when they're told to create a journal, because somehow that journal is supposed to produce a result, but they're like, "I don't like to write," or "I'm dyslexic," or my fingers or whatever. Like
Yeah.
there's infinite other ways you can get to that consistency of clarity. Infinite. So what is the impulse for you to do?
Yeah. I, f- I feel like there's a little bit of making the intention though, right? Because before I knew that I had taken different, like, oh, I'm going to try this, right? So I try this for a month and then and then I try this for a month and I'm trying things to get a consistent habit to see what works for me. Because if I don't, then I'm in the program all the time, right? I'm getting up, I got to make the kids' lunch. I got to do this. What am I going to do? I don't feel like if I didn't set a routine that I had to try a little while, that I would have gotten to the routine that I do. And now I love it, right? I put on music that I love. I move my body. I've gone to yoga for so many years that I know enough moves, but I don't like watching somebody else do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to turn up the music and let my body do it. But I had to go to that yoga class for a while to kind of know how to move that way. Or I had to get up and do it enough that I was like, ooh, I like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I wouldn't have, right now, my mom really wants to change her mindset, but she's like, oh, I should meditate. Oh, I should do this. Oh, and I still think that you need to try something. Like there is no right way, right? But be in awareness. Get up in the morning and sit there for 30 minutes listening to nothing, thinking what would be my highest joy, right?
So there is no path forward. So whatever person, so consistency might be trying different things for someone. That might be their level of consistency until they land on something.
Yeah.
We are in a physical reality. So there is a level of necessity to creation that involves physical movement, right? You have to,
Yeah.
so yes, in order to, but I would never say that because I just want to be very careful with the indoctrination of the concept of consistency, whatever that means for a person, that if they start something and they really if it doesn't light them up, consistency isn't going to light them up more. Try something else. Don't do it because you think you should do it. Do it because it lights you up.
I feel like in this world with dopamine and like fast food, Netflix, there are things that are a little bit more easy to make habits. And sometimes we have to like take those out a little bit. We have to step back a little bit so we can hear our highest joy, right?
But here's an example. I wrote about this in my book that's just being published. So I was watching Netflix one day, and the story was so intoxicating. I just loved the character. She was so perfectly flawed, like, and just so, I just resonated with her. And I had a deep sensation of compassion for this character. Right on the heels of that, the thought that I understood and I really heard it was like, this is how Source feels about you. You can have aha moments anywhere watching Netflix. There is no right way to get to the level of awareness that you are seeking, right? There is no right way. As long as you are giving yourself a little bit of compassion, you will find the way that gets you where you want to go, and find the activities that bring you the kind of joy. The reason this has happened for me in this way is because I have an incredible joy of watching storyline play itself out. And so these Netflix shows are an excellent way for me to see character development, storyline, perspective.
Oh, I love the Housewives because I love seeing who people are. I
Yeah,
love the psychology of people. I love loving people no matter where they're at,
right.
right? Like I do. I agree with you.
So anything that you decide to do, know that in sometimes just doing those things that other people think are not going to get you from point A to point Z, is the thing that you do because it's your path of least resistance, right? You want to be as kind as you can to yourself. There are tons of voices telling you you're doing it wrong all the time. And your path will be very individualized. And maybe you do need to sit on the couch for a month watching Netflix. Maybe that is your path of least resistance. I know you're not going to stay there forever because we are abundantly creative and we do get off the couch, every single one of us, and we follow. But maybe you need that path, or maybe your path is to be hyper vigilant and be like incredibly creative, and then you crash. It's kind of what I do is I go through a project and I realize I just did this with my exercise. In hindsight, I exercised for like 4 months straight and now I haven't done it for like 4 weeks. I go through these patterns, but that's okay. Where I need to
Yeah.
go, it's fine. It is perfect that I don't exercise for a month.
Yeah. No, I agree so much. Do you think that what is meant for you will find you? Like that no matter what, if you're meant to kind of awaken, if you're meant for something, that it will find you?
Yes, 100,000%, because you are a non-physical consciousness. I believe in the concept of that you were excited to focus in physical reality. You had a general idea of themes that you wanted to explore. And so you will get to those themes because you are soul driven 100%, every single one of you. And you will get there however you decide to use your free will to explore this narrative. And for me, it almost looks like, when I take the bird's eye perspective, that the first half of my life was struggling with tons of limiting beliefs and trauma and a lot of really deep stuff. Like when my mom died when I was 20 and she was 53, it was pancreatic cancer, 6 weeks. On her transition where she was dying, we were there and I saw the last breath take place. And within a split second, I had the understanding of, when you focus back into non physical, all of the things that we consider to be negative, all of those negative experiences, all those negative beliefs, do not transition with us because it's unconditional love when you focus back. I was 20. I was like, okay, now what? I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what to do with it. I just knew the truth of it. Well, now that I'm in my 50s, I realize why I had that experience in the way that I did, because I needed to know the unconditionality of this experience. I needed to have a basis in my own experience to begin to explain for anyone who cares to listen, and some people don't, and that's fine, that we are infinite beings. We are based in love. Even that neighbor that you hate is based in love. I'm sorry to say it, but they're unconditional love. They're just separating themselves because they want the experience of knowing what it feels like to be separate. And there's value in that as well. There is value in everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a family member that has taught me a lot of lessons and just can't, very victim mode, can't get it together, and I have to 100% accept that they chose this path. They're on the right path. There's nothing that I can do except love them completely exactly how they are. And it's kind of a tough lesson. You just want, you want them to get to feel this unconditional love, and you want them to be able to play in this reality because it's such a fun place when you feel that way. And right now it's not a fun place for them, right? It's a really hard place, but it is. We're all here to have our own experience, and I don't know what they signed up for when they came, and if this is what's happening, that's what they signed up for.
Right. There is value in division. Yeah.
I agree too. One of the people that I used to follow, she would binge Gilmore Girls. I love the Gilmore Girls. Would binge Gilmore Girls and then go work. It would take these, and I was trying to fix my reality with food, with supplements. I was really an autoimmune disease, and I just fatigued all the time. And I knew that everything is energy, but I couldn't equate that to how I was feeling. Mm-hmm. And so I took the COVID year, 2020, I took that entire year to give up on, I'm going to fix myself and just live in gratitude. And it was a really beautiful year for me. I lived in gratitude that whole year. I was grateful for my coffee. I was grateful and I kind of let go of, I was only eating a couple of foods at that point because I was so sure that I was going to cure myself by eating meat and a couple of vegetables. Yeah. And I've added so much back to my diet and so much variety. But it was like, okay, I needed that year of gratitude. And then I stepped into, okay, now I'm ready to do something. And of course, then it had highs and lows, because when you want something, you get this high and low. I lived in this nice calm. And then I had these highs and lows, and that was a great lesson. And now it's gotten to me where I need to be, but it was always following what felt right at the time, right? And it's getting me there, and I still have to live in that every single day. I'm like so ready for the next step. We went to Hawaii and we climbed Coco Head.
Oh, fun.
Which I had done all the time when I was young. And it was a lot, right? Like I thought that I had prepared myself and all this. My kids ran up the mountain and waited for me. And I just crawled one step at a time, hands and knees, just crawled up that mountain. And I looked at the view, and then I went back down, and it was the entire experience, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't that 5-second view. It was the entire experience that I had to love, that I had to be in, that I had to, take in. And so I think that's always a good way to look at life,
we humans tend to look at that situation. And as a listener, you'll want to examine even your story that you told. And am I thinking that running up the hill is better than crawling on your hands and knees? Is that really how I feel about that story? That will tell you what your active belief is. That yes, it's better to run than to crawl. And you're applying that belief system to yourself. So you really have to begin to deconstruct, oh, wait, I really do believe it's better to run than to crawl. And so what does that mean for my own journey? It means I'm judging myself really harshly because I'm not running in some of these categories. I'm probably even not moving. I'm repeating the same thing over and over again. So, do I believe it's less than to do something different than the standard narrative says?
Yeah. Do you know that phrase or that it's take one step and the next step will appear?
Mm-hmm.
So I always heard that, and people always said that, right? And I was always like, what is that step? What's the first step, right? And so this last year, I had this overwhelming, I have to quit my job. Like I have to. It's no longer an option for me to work this job. And so I'd done all, I'd studied human design, I'd studied all the things, and I did all the things, but I had to quit my job. So I quit my job, but I didn't have a plan. I didn't know how I was going to get there. And I cried and I cleaned and I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I followed that little tiny nudge. Oh, start making your podcast cover, right? Oh, then cry, clean. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then start to, and it all lined up perfectly. It just kept giving me one little nudge at a time.
Mhm.
Is that how it happened for you? Or did you have this big grand plan or?
No, I had no idea what I was going to do when I transitioned away from the experience that I had that I perceived as really hurtful. And a lot of times it's in that giving up what you think is supposed to happen that you're able to receive what is happening at the moment, and you're able to see more clearly and receive, on a little bit, on a level that's a little bit more open-minded, I guess to say, when you don't have something you think is supposed to be happening. And intuition can come through. Intuition doesn't need you to be in a specific mood to come through. It can come through in the most traumatic of situations. It can come through in the most joyful. It doesn't need your emotional environment to be a specific way. However, when we have given up what we think is supposed to happen, we're a little bit more receptive, it seems like, to listening to those nudges and voices and ideas that are coming through and that have been coming through, but we've told them that they were stupid, or we didn't know how they were going to happen, or what value does that have? Like, what's that going to get me? We kind of dismiss it because it doesn't come with, a marching band and angels singing off the mountain. And we think, oh, it must be ridiculous, but all we have is this moment. You do not. So when you think about how we're able to even create this physical experience, it's because you're, and you've probably heard people talk about their death experiences where they realize they're connected to everything that is present in this moment, which is infinite everything. In order to have a physical experience, you have to put some blinders on, or you won't have a physical experience. So by default, you are already limited in what you can perceive, which is why when you transition back, you perceive everything, every second, every moment, every interaction, everything, because that's a different point of view. But by default, you have blinders on to a certain degree. So all you're going to receive is what is applicable, what is relevant for you in this moment. That's it. You're not going to get something that's relevant for someone else. You will only get what's relevant for you because you are creating this experience. You are the one handing yourself the ideas. Like, your physical experience is contained within the broader perspective of your spirit self. It's not the other way around. You don't contain a soul, the soul contains you. So you're going to
Yep.
give yourself the next best step because you understand you only have one moment, and that's right now, and right now, and right now, and right now. And what am I open to now? Okay, I'm open to going to wash my shoes. And when I wash my shoes, I realize, oh my gosh, there's a penny that fell behind there. And you're like, oh, the penny is 1979. I'm like, wait, 1979. I'm going to go find that picture. And then like it leads you down this path. And then finally you get to the place where you're like, oh, I know what I need to do.
Yeah. And if a lot of people love to do this, all I have to do is have a positive emotion and feel that it's coming and it's all gonna, and then something happens and they lose that positive emotion and it's like heartbreaking to them, right? There's never anything that's against you, even if it's a hard lesson, right? Like it's never against you, it's for you, right?
Well, yeah. And that's the human perception. The human mind says, this is bad, this is good. That's what positive and negative, the connotation between positive and negative is usually positive is good, negative is bad. You can look at it a little bit differently. You can say that energy has structure, and a positive energy is actually an inclusive energy. It's an abundant, it's expansive. Negative is actually restrictive. It's exclusive. It leaves things out, right? So if you are in an experience which you are constricting and leaving things out, you're doing it so you can know more about yourself. You're doing it to highlight a belief that you would prefer to give up, which is, I'm not enough. I can't do that. Whatever the belief is, right? So instead of putting judgment on it and going, I'm having a positive and negative, this is bad, this is good. I can't tell anyone about this because they're going to judge me and they're going to think that I'm crazy and whatever. You know, I'm having a restrictive or expanded idea experience. And why would I give myself an expanded or restricted experience? Because I'm trying to reflect something. Oh, I really believe this to be true. I really do believe my kids love me and I love them. I really do. Because when I think about them, man, do I expand. I love them. I love them no matter what they do. And then you go, oh, but my neighbor, not so much. Because you know what? She left her trash can in the driveway for 7, like constrict. So what are you reflecting to yourself in that moment about what you want to know about your own belief system, about yourself, about where you're pointing your focus of thought and energy and all of that? It really is a mirror. It's a mirror
Yeah.
for you to know more about yourself. And every belief that you hold consistent is serving you. Otherwise, you would not hold it. In the same way that I said to you, like, punch yourself in the face. You'd be like, no, that's completely illogical. Get to the point where some of those negative beliefs we have about ourselves are that illogical, that you would put yourself in a position where you felt tremendous pain or guilt or separation. You want it to be that illogical. And we're getting there. We're not there yet. We're getting there.
So what do you see for the future? Do you think that the schooling for young kids, the that we are going to get more individualization coming, or
Um,
what do you see?
I don't know because everyone creates their own reality, and so your perception of it is based on you. In my experience, I would hope, because I think the system is imploding as we speak, because there are children who are just, they're anxious. They're the evidence that we can see of the insistence that everyone do it the same way. They're showing us it's not working, right? It's not working because of their mental health, their emotional health, their ability to create has been hampered, right? It's difficult for them. Um, so I would hope that we as a general population could see that it's not working and go, well, what could we do? And then from there, create some inspired ideas, because there's infinite amount of ideas. So what could we create that both supports the production that we want to see in our world, as well as a healthy individual? Back when my kids when they each hit fourth grade, I've got 3 kids, 2 in college. There's a junior and a freshman, and then one who's a junior in high school. And when they hit fourth grade, I was like, you're on your own. I'm not speaking to you again about your school experience. Why? Because I want you to have a relationship with education that is all your own. Now, they still had the indoctrination of the system, of the teachers, of the students, of society. But for me in particular, I was like, you need to understand why you would learn something, whether you do or do not like it, and what you're going to do with that. And so there's a little piece of them that has a sense of freedom around, what do I want to create? How do I, and I always ask them, like, what do you want? It makes zero difference what I want. It's not my life. What do you want to learn? How do you want to learn it? I give them the formula, and I've said to them, you can create anything as long as you are following that excitement. You will be abundance based. You will be happy. Now, that doesn't mean they don't struggle. I've got kids with the older 2 have some stress in their life that's causing some manifestations, some anxiety. They've all had anxiety. So I can't wave a magic wand and it's not going to go away. They have to have their own experience. But I think as a generation, there's a couple of generations that are stacked up there. They're going to have to decide, what do I want for my kids? Do I want the same thing, or would I like it to be different?
Yep.
They have to figure it out, and I'd be happy to help. My oldest is going to be a teacher, so, so I talked to her about, well, what is, you have to look at the whole student, and you can't demand that they be something in particular. And she's going to ESL, so she won't be necessarily a standardized education classroom teacher, which we need to let the teachers have some more freedom and stuff, but they're under a lot of duress and stress and all of that. But
we have a great community. One of the teachers here at the school actually taught I think it was third grade, how to meditate. Called it Mind Yeti. And I was like, this is wonderful. Yes, let's teach them how to sit down and calm their mind. And my oldest, he's 12, he does have some panic attacks once in a while, which I had as a kid. And luckily I can teach him the tools, right? And I can't fix it for him. I can't take that experience away, but I can give him the tools. And yeah, that's what I think we need that more as parents. I don't know what my kids are going to be. I can't wait to see what they show me, and they can do whatever they want. I'm just here to watch it unfold and teach them that. They come home and tell me what they learned, and I ask, what do you think about that? There's a lot of parents in the school trying to control what's being taught. And I think contrast is okay.
Well, even with self-expression, I have a transgender son. My middle one is a transgender son. So even self-expression and self-awareness of who we are fundamentally as people, there is a whole generation that's going, you know what? No more of this old, system that says you have to express yourself in only one way and one way only.
Yeah. So I can't believe we've already been almost in an hour here. So I just want you to let our listeners know how they can reach you, what you have out there for programs and things that they can interact with you with.
Absolutely. Well, I do a lot on social media. So there's the TikTok and the Instagram, which is Allison Sutter 3. There's also on YouTube. If you want to just explore who I am as a teacher and what I talk about, you can do that. I also expanded my program this year, which it's called Accelerate Your Mojo. That's the book. You can get the book on Amazon. I also made that my program, where there's a digital program and what I work with people either one-on-one and now in a group setting. So I took that and I fleshed it out, and I made a very easy to enter, very low price point to come to group coaching in a community. And then I put different price points, different levels so people could choose. Very reasonable. Like, I don't want to be inaccessible. I think that's a dumb idea, frankly. So for me personally, not for anyone else, for me personally, it is not an idea that I resonate with, being, only high ticket, very exclusive. It just doesn't, I'm a people person. So, you can go to my website, you can look at that, what that is, what the program offers. We talk about intuition, we talk about transforming fears, and we talk about authenticity. That's my jam. So you can pretty much just Google my name and interview, and you can see I've been doing interviews for years. You'll find me if you want to.
Yeah, I hope that everybody gets from this that they're perfect right now. Everything's always working out for them. There is no wrong, there is no right. It's all okay. Follow your joy, right?
Yes, I work with a lot of people pleasers, perfectionists, people who are just sick of the internal angst of living in the world that we live in, and they want something different, which was me.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. If you resonate with Allison, look her up. She's got wonderful content out there. I love the way that you look at life, and you're not standing back on the mountain, just just praying for people and not doing anything. You're here, right? You're showing up in this physical reality. You're living in a regular world, but you're showing people it can be different. They can create something different. So I love that so much.
Yeah, you can be you and just enjoy all of it.
Well, thank you so much, Allison. This was wonderful. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I hope you all were able to get as much out of that as I was. I walked out of that interview feeling really relaxed and really calm and very positive about how I'm going to take this next stage of my life. And listening back again, seeing how much in fear I kind of was when she was saying no routine and do whatever you want, and you don't have to do anything. And I just thought, oh my gosh, what if people don't change But what she's really saying is that when we set back and we accept ourselves exactly where we are, and we take away the shame and we take away the blame and the shoulds, that the creativity will want to come out. We're just, as a society, we're so tired and we're doing so many things that we don't want to do, and we're not listening to what lights us up. And if we did, maybe sitting on the couch for a week is what we needed, and then we'd be able to be the creators that we want to be. You can't force yourself into it. And maybe going to Tony Robbins and burning all those bridges and doing all that really lights you up, and that feels really exciting to you. Or maybe doing nothing. Maybe stepping back and unplugging sounds really good to you. I think both are going to get us where we want to go if we're following what lights us up. And I guess I thought that I had to have consistency, and then I had to have a routine, and then I had to force this kind of connection to get where I wanted to go. And I am rethinking that now with Allison. There might be a week that I don't do my routine if that's what feels good. Maybe I need that extra rest. I hope all of you were able to get maybe a little bit of that too, because it's a really nice way to look at the world, to really trust ourselves, to believe that what's for us will find us, and to kind of let go a little bit on how it's supposed to be. Just following your joy will bring you there. Thank you all so much for coming, and as always, let's keep evolving on purpose.